That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the Kickback Cafe, the show where we kick back, relax, and talk about anything but Disney. And Dragon, it's a weird, bizarre special occasion because it's both Easter and April Fool's Day. At least it will be in a couple hours. We had to film this a little bit early to assure we actually got it out this year, folks. Because this has been basically like a year and a half in the making at this point. My bad for messing that up this year, or last year, I should say. But we're finally doing it, Dragon. We're finally, for April Fool's Day, we're doing the Flash Tricksters episode. It's season 1, episode 17 of the CW show, better known as the iconic introduction of Mark Hamill into the CW Flashverse. Dragon, any background you want to share with us on this thing?
Well, nothing outside the obvious, but just to kind of give it some posterity here. This episode, folks, it's a longtime favorite of mine. Still probably to this day. And Flash has had some doozies of some episodes that have come after this episode and after, in the following seasons. But this one's always still probably going to be, even if they surpass it in quality, this one's still going to be my favorite. Not just for the Mark Hamill of it all, but I mean, this episode is ripe with quality writing and characterization, and my favorite, kind of the kingpin of the CW verse, Reverse Flash, is in this episode big time. And oh boy, it's Reverse Flash, it's Mark Hamill. This episode has everything, and the reason we have Mark Hamill, very simply, is the Flash. I'm not sure we get the Flash on CW without getting the Flash in the 90s. Just to kind of put the Flash on TV and kind of give a lot of, how do we do a hero differently than Batman, but still kind of do someone with the prestige of a DC hero like Batman. And if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say that this performance of the Trickster, like way back during the Flash in the 90s, the 1991 series. It only went for a season. It was like a long season, like a 22, nowadays people are kind of crossing the fingers to get 13 episodes. This was back when you'd have like a full 22 to 26 episode season of hour episodes, which again nowadays is a little bit more like we scale it back to 22 or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we don't have the Joker. We don't have Mark Hamill playing the Joker without him playing the Trickster, because it does predate Batman, the animated series, by 1 year. So this is really Mark Hamill's first kind of grand entrance into the DC universe, period.
And also the grand entrance into Mark Hamill playing a scummy and villainous role.
Yes.
I don't know. Just felt like doing that. Anyways.
But most certainly, this is, the Trickster has always been an important role and a beloved role. Basically, it's the only time he's ever been able to play Joker in live action through the Trickster. But again, not making like a copycat of the Joker, but kind of seeing Mark Hamill, like the performance that we've always imagined in our minds, or we've seen animated, kind of seen embodied in live action. He only did 2 episodes. And they were he kind of ended the series with the Trickster episode that I showed you a clip of. I showed him a clip of the one of the most famous, kind of like the Flash and the Trickster kind of teaming up due to some brainwashing misadventure. So
I want to watch that whole episode now. It's on Netflix, right?
Oh no, you have to do some digging, but I encourage everyone to get it on. Trust me, folks, get it on DVD. Just however you can get the whole season. The whole season, it's a blast. But again, the Trickster episode, and this is the last bit of background I guess I have, is that the Trickster episode kind of did the opposite of what the George Reeves show had a problem with, where, with the exception of the Trickster, and technically we had Captain Cold. They wanted to do the rogues. They want to do the Flash's rogues, but they never were able to do it until these very rare occurrences with Captain Cold and the Trickster, and when they were planning a second season, they were going to do a whole season of all rogues you can imagine. And of course, where we're at now in the CW, and way back in 2014 when the beginning of the Flash started, we establish all these rogues. We do nothing but rogues. It shows you how the tables have turned in later years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so we start 15 years ago, Dragon, and this is if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while. And folks, just to recap, if you've not watched Dragon and I talk about this series before, I've only watched season 1. Dragon's caught up on the whole thing, so apologize if I'm not as fresh on some of these things. And I watched season 1 like 2 years ago, so it's been a while. It's been a while. But Dragon, if I remember it correctly, this whole flashback to the 15 years ago, at least in the first season, it happens in a cold open, like at least a healthy few times.
It does. It does happen a number of times. What we do here is, like, we've done it here, and I'm pretty sure we did in the Christmas episode too, because basically those are two. The only other time we talked about Flash and kind of gone through an episode was the Christmas episode for, I believe, Christmas in July.
Yeah,
and
right.
when we did that, that's a huge. That's the big reveal. And again, there will be spoilers, folks, because this is after that episode, and it's down the line. We're kind of like broaching right into like kind of the deep heart of the Flash here. So it's like big spoiler. Harrison Wells was revealed to be Reverse Flash, therefore the killer of Barry Allen's mother.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that was a big reveal in like the mid-season finale. That was that Christmas episode we talked about. So this is like, after that, we're kind of the whole conspiracy of like, okay, we now suspect Harrison Wells, and our guys are kind of now they've woken up to it. Now they're trying to nail the guy and trying to kind of basically formulate a plan to beat probably the most unbeatable villain in the CW universe.
Yeah, so I feel like we talk about this show like spontaneously throughout the years. If anything else, on Christmas in July, we'll keep going back to it. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Dragon, is Mark Hamill in any other episodes?
Oh yes, again he technically has. I don't know if the fourth season's still going on now, but he has kind of like an annual appearance on the show. He always does an episode a season.
Okay, so it's possible we might dig into the Mark Hamill well if we ever do a Mark Hamill thon of some sort.
That's true, and we also have the other two episodes from the '90s show, which are rife with Hamill. Like it's all basically it's like this, but even more crazy. But yeah, we go back in time in this one. But I feel this one, honestly, out of all the times we went back in time, this time has the most substance, especially with how we do a flashback, and we're seeing it from the Reverse Flash's point of view, and that's what we do in this whole kind of flashback setting. Which I really like.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's like a Reverse Flash origin story at the same time that it's a Trickster episode. As you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of layers to it.
Well, and believe me, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's say it's 15 years ago. It's the night Nora Allen died, and here's something that they've been building up. So in the show, they had the mystery of there was a lot of lightning scurrying around. Like the very first episode, we saw the man in yellow, again the Reverse Flash, and Barry was always basically like chasing the one-armed man with the man in yellow, saying, "Oh man, there was a really fast guy. There was like a tornado of lightning, but no one believed him because he was a kid. They thought he was traumatized." And what we kind of found out at this point leading up to this, and now we're basically, after we found it out, now we're seeing it unfold. Basically, now we're on with a little bit more information because we're seeing it unfold right before us. That the reason there was so much lightning, we discovered there was yellow lightning and there was red lightning, and that means there were two speedsters battling in the home, Reverse Flash and the future version of the Flash. They were battling each other, and that's why all that lightning was swirling around, and that's why the yellow lightning carried Barry away. That was Flash saving Barry from being killed by Reverse Flash.
So it all just kind of builds into the mystery, and that's what I like about this show, is that it kind of has that interesting time travel element to it, where different points of view of the same event, like unravel plot points.
We tug at the heartstrings with the whole Nora and Barry of it all, and then and this is a cool thing. I love that we have these clues that are paying off now, and again, because now we've built it up, and you get to see it unfold here. And if you reach the end of the season, you can look back at all these episodes, and you can see, oh my god, that's how it fits in. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. We have the tachyon gravity clue. Basically, whenever someone time travels, whenever a speedster time travels, the liquids in a room, the gravity will mess with the liquid. Like she has like a glass of wine, it's like it's floating in the air. Like the fish tank in Barry's room, it's like floating in the air. That's a sign of time travel. Like the tachyons, like the particles that are kind of spun about when someone time travels. So that means, okay, Reverse Flash has entered the house, and that's why all these like trippy stuff that Barry was telling people about, no one could believe him. So let's see. So again, we see.
Like I said, you're going to have to kind of be the expert on some of the finer details of the technology and everything, because as I said, it's been a hot minute since I've watched any of the show.
Well, I love me some
episodes, so
well, you know me. I love my sci-fi. I love my tech. I love my pseudoscience.
Of course, I just want to warn the people. I might get lost in the dust of the conversation a little bit when it comes to the finer details here.
The point is floating liquid, sign of time travel. So if we see Flash and Reverse Flash kind of beat the crap out of each other trying to defend the Allen family. Again, the explanation for the swirling lightning. So yeah, it's a plot relevant recap of the origin, as I said earlier, and we transition from then to today. We're going to check back with that flashback throughout the episode. So we're on today.
Yeah, and we just get just kind of a check in on Joe and Barry and the investigation into Wells.
They're suspicious of Wells. They finally have a man to put to the face of who might have on that big little web of all the connections, like who killed Nora Allen. They now have a huge suspect with Harrison Wells.
I like the idea that Wells has a 600-page biography that basically boils down to he's enigmatic. Because it's Tom Cavanaugh. Of course he's enigmatic.
Now, we adore Tom Cavanaugh. My introduction was through The Flash with Cavanaugh, but Tiki, I've introduced him to Cavanaugh through not just The Flash, but also through Snow.
Hey, man, I remember Snow from when I was a kid, all right? Like, you reintroduced me to Snow, but as soon as I watched Snow, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this charming little movie. So Cavanaugh has been kind of like all over our childhoods in a way. He sort of pops up in the most random places.
Yes, he does.
And he's also in the Woody Woodpecker movie, I believe.
No. It's Yogi Bear, Tiki.
That's Bear. Right. He's in Woody. Freaking
Timothy O'Munson.
O'Munson is O'Munson.
Poor O'Munson.
I know. And we were going to talk about O'Munson in another holiday special that got canceled at the last minute. Kind of a running theme here. Anyways.
Yes. Okay, let's see. So, basically, to kind of economize some of this, to streamline it here, he wants basically Barry determines. They're kind of spitballing like what was his end game here. So, okay, he wants Barry to get faster, and he created the Flash, the particle accelerator. So, he created the Flash, and he wants him to get faster. So, is that his plan? If that's his plan, why on earth would he create me and then kill my mother, then create the Flash? Why would he do that?
Yeah, it's all part of the tangled web of season 1. I've heard that season 1 has the best mystery dragon. Like season 1 is really.
Oh, it does. It does. I mean, there's a good mystery in the second season, but the first season is kind of like, it's not to the same level, but I think overall, people would agree it's very much kind of like the Daredevil season 1 of the Flash series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It comes together best, I think, at the end. Okay. So let's see. So they can't bring him in yet. They want to, Barry wants to bring him in, but they can't do it because they have nothing substantial. And this is cool. We get to see an answer to this in the episode. I thought it was really neat that they can't bring him in because the police saw the Reverse Flash and Harrison Wells during the Christmas episode. And yeah, I like how this directly ties into a lot of the stuff from the Christmas specials to make things simple.
Yeah, that's convenient, right?
That basically, everyone saw two separate guys, which it's going to be a hard sell already. But primarily, they. Like Joe, I believe, Joe, earlier in the season, he checked the DNA and everything. So basically, there's not a blood match. There's no blood match between the Reverse Flash and Harrison Wells. So it's a really hard thing to get across. Like, how can you prove it's the same man when they have different sets of DNA?
He's a tricky one, that Wells.
And then I think Joe has the great line here, which again is like some of the various reasons I love the Reverse Flash. He's been scarily patient for 15 years. He's the key to freeing Henry Allen. But as Joe, the lovely Joe West says, we need to be just as patient.
Of course, and shout out to Jesse L. Martin, who I've loved since my Rent days as a theater geek in high school.
Oh yeah, you still haven't seen. I'm sorry, Tiki. It just dawned on me you haven't seen the musical episode yet.
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
and Jesse L. Martin, I assume, has a big song in it because he's a big musical guy.
Well, he sang a couple times on The Flash, actually. So he's in the musical episode, and he has an episode where he sings.
Okay.
Stuff to look forward to.
Dragon, trust me, The Flash is definitely it's on my to-do list. I very much intend on getting caught up with it at some point.
I'll sell you on this. I've sold you on season 2 before. Season 2 basically is kind of like the new and improved in a good way. I don't mean like in the crappy popsicle way. I mean like new and improved in the like, oh my god, this it's Flash, but now we can do anything.
Right. So, all right. Anyways,
okay. So let's see. We're in the park.
Yes, and this is a really cool kind of introduction to our villain plot line. We have this really, it's almost kind of got a Tim Burton feel to it, where at first it's kind of cheerful. It's like, oh, look at these umbrellas and packages coming down from the sky, and all the
Christmas early. Is it an
Yeah, all
early
the parents
Christmas?
and kids are like, "Oh, what a whimsical, magical sight! Oh, joy!"
Wrong. Bombs. It's a lot of bombs. A lot of tiny bombs. Very
Oh man.
wonderful presentation. If you're gonna bomb, I guess if you're gonna bomb a bunch of people, at least you want to have like a nice little pleasant presentation while it's going on there. So I'll give them that.
Dragon, it's a subtle moment, but there's a moment where there's a father that just throws himself on top of his kid as the bomb's about to go off. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like the the dad's like goes into superhero mode himself. Just kind of a nice subtle nod to heroism right there.
Well,
Anyway,
again, it ties into the theme of the episode, where again, fatherhood is a huge theme of this episode.
exactly. So it's
Oh, you said the Flash.
Yeah.
Speaking of spring into action,
yes.
as does the Flash. The Flash springs into action. You know, it's hearing all the bombs and stuff going off. He saves his very ignorant child named Henry.
Oh boy, all these packages are falling to the sky and they're exploding. It's a good idea to just reach out and touch them, right?
Saves the kid, comments on like, "Hey, Henry, that's a nice name," because his father's named Henry. Get it?
God.
Well, look, I don't mean that in a negative way.
That moment was a little forced.
I mean, come on, like that's like I give it like a sentimental pass. Like, oh man, it's an episode about fatherhood. I'll give him a pass.
You know what it is? You know what it is? I have
It's the amazing Spider-Man moment.
No. I have an even better term to describe it. It's the heroic sandwich moment.
I don't know about that, but
Oh, come on. It's like it's cheesy, but it works. You know what I mean? It's like a big over the top heroic save.
all right, fine, all right.
Okay, so we're getting some exposition into Mr. James Jesse.
Okay, this is great. So we basically we establish the status quo with the Trickster in the CW Flash here. So we meet the Trickster. Well, I'm sorry, I'm jumping a little ahead of myself here. Basically, you're right, T. We meet the Trickster. So we meet now in the comics, and T, this is very accurate to the comics. There are two versions of the Trickster. There's a young one named Axel Walker, and then we have the original James Jesse. This is Axel Walker we're seeing first. So Axel, you know, basically like the new kind of punk, kind of like modern, basically the Heath Ledger version of the Trickster.
Yeah, I wouldn't give him that much.
You know what I don't mean like the acting, comprehensible to the acting. I'm just saying in terms of like.
I mean, if we're comparing acting, I don't mean to sound harsh, but he's more Leto than Joker or than.
Oh, come on, that's not. Look, I'm not comparing the. I'm just saying in terms of the presentation, it's like, you know, the more like it's the modern, like darker version of the.
Okay, you know what? I'll give you a nice substitution. All right, he's the Cameron Monaghan of the Flashverse.
All right, fine. Anyways, we meet the Trickster 2.0, and he's making a video, taking credit for all the mayhem. He's back. Get ready for the new disorder.
I mean, I will admit those viral videos are kind of Ledger Joker-like. You've got a point there.
Okay, so Cisco, he's I love this gag here. We always have the running gag where Cisco loves to name the bad guys. And Cisco here, Caitlin's calling him out on this. Oh, you're just mad because he named himself already. So then we get some exposition by Joe, and this is what I was kind of jumping the gun to earlier, where Joe informs us that forms the Flash gang, that the Trickster was a man by the name the Trickster was behind various terrorist attacks 20 years ago, killing 10 civilians and 2 cops. The original Trickster, who was named James Jesse, and essentially what we see unfold before us, and I love this and love using all the images here. We see the clips and the stills from the '90s Flash episodes, from the 2 episodes that Mark Hamill appeared in.
Oh, that's clever. That's clever. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, all of that is the '90s Flash.
Nice.
It's
nice.
Yeah. Tiki, you may want to come out and come back in again real quick.
Okay.
I'll walk them through nostalgia. You just all
right.
So, folks, very simply. So again, we have all these great little '90s stills, images of Hamill from the Trickster episodes in the past. I think primarily it's the first episode because he's in like kind of the leotard version of the thing, which we do get to see in this episode, which is cool. So let's see. Cisco and Caitlin kind of mocking the unitard as well. You know, like the various kind of past-shaved checkerboards and like ridiculous, over-the-top costumes. Any version of the Trickster you see, I was going to say like a past shave. Like it's never like one whole thing until we get to like the modern guy here with like the purple jacket. Anyway, so let's see. Oh yes, and one of my favorite little details. So I mentioned earlier that the last episode of the Flash series was the return of the Trickster. Essentially, it was it's the trial of the Trickster, I think. And what's really cool is the image that we have for the mugshot. More like the images there. It's is 100% the very last image we saw in the Flash of like him in a cell. Of like basically we pan back from him in like an Arkham-esque cell. It's like really awesome. That's kind of like the main mugshot image.
All right, how do I sound now?
Perfect.
Okay, and also, Dragon, my birds outside are being really abnormally loud to the point where they're like, I don't know if you can hear them through the windows, but they're being pretty damn loud, so I apologize for that.
You know what you gotta do with those birds, Tiki?
What do I have to do with the birds, Dragon?
You gotta feed them.
God. Something! All right.
A bag? Okay, anyway, sorry folks, being a little silly there. Anyway, so I was just walking through like some
episode.
Anyway, so I was telling about some of the kind of the cool screenshots. We used like the mugshot as like the last image from the Flash series, which is a really nice touch. Anyway, so before Wells weighs in on things, Barry instantly throws some shade at him about this is the worst. It was the worst thing that happened since the particle accelerator. Does anyone in this room know what that's about? He's not that literal about it, but
Mr. Charisma, you know, I might have seen you in snow, but your Santa Claus act isn't fooling me.
Yeah. Anyway, so Wells is asking Joe about, I think Barry, if he doesn't leave in a huff, he's just going on about business, and Wells like, hey Joe, hang back for a second here. What's going on with the kid? And Joe makes an excuse again. Joe and Barry, they're conspiring. They're at this point, if I'm remembering correctly, they're the only two they're aware of it right now. And Cisco and Caitlin aren't looked into it quite yet, so they don't know. So again, they're on Wells' side this episode because they don't know.
Isn't the next episode where everyone kind of comes together?
I know it's either 19 or 20. Well, sorry, 8.
The next episode is called something like All-Star Team Up or something like that.
Probably. I know it's not far off from when this is. It's like they relatively short. Like an episode or two is when they're all on board. So. Let's see. What was I? Oh yeah. So Joe's like saying, "Oh, I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed." You know how that goes.
Even the Flash has bad days.
Speaking of Flash, let's flash back.
Ooh, all right.
So we have. I love that we see this unfold, and I love that this is always. I can't remember for life of me. I'm pretty sure Joe said it first, but there's a chance because a lot of people popularized it with Wells saying it. And I'm pretty sure he said it in the. If you come back to the Christmas episode, they really complement each other really well, folks. Because it was the reason the Christmas episode is so important, by the way, is because it was the mid-season finale. We revealed a lot of stuff there, so that's why. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the catchphrase of the show that's in every season, the one that makes Kevin Smith well up like I do at the end of Winter Soldier, is Run Barry Run. So you see real quick the origin of Run Barry Run with the very ending of the flashback of Henry Allen saying again the fatherhood angle here, and again. Whether he was the first to say it or not, we know Harrison Wells is known for saying "Run, Barry, run" along with Joe. I'd like to think, and this is my own head. I think it's pretty explicit, but like the whole fatherhood angle of this episode, I think connects these pieces intentionally. Where you gotta imagine, Reverse Flash is in the house and he's doing all this stuff. You gotta imagine a part of him probably overheard the scene going on. He probably heard Henry Allen say to his son. Run, Barry, run, as in run away. And of course, years later, when he wants to get Barry on his side in the very beginning of the season, he's going to say, run, Barry, run, to evoke some fatherhood kind of connection there.
Or else someone's just a big fan of Forrest Gump.
Well, sure.
Sorry. Couldn't resist.
Anyway, that's why I'd like to think that the Reverse Flash is that clever. He's going to use that to his advantage in molding Barry to his side. Like, hey, run, Barry, run. It's in the DNA. Also Joe said, so he's echoing Joe if nothing else, so regardless. Anyway. So we see, basically, here's the cool thing. So after that scene, Barry, he's been saved by the Flash. He's been taken outside the house. And we've always seen that scene in the flashbacks. Okay, Barry is saved. He's whisked off to the side there. But we never saw what happened on the other side of the street. So after Norton Allen is murdered, we get to see the aftermath of what happened. This is cool. It's a really cool thing in the episode, which we never saw before. Reverse Flash, he runs away, but he's kind of not. You'd imagine, okay, he'd run all the way home, but no, he's running and he slows down. So after the murder,
I like how that effect's done, by the way, where we see him he runs and then he loses the power, basically, where he kind of skids as if someone jumped out of a moving car or something.
Exactly. Says getaway is halted by a lack of speed, and Gideon, who, by the way, before Legends of Tomorrow came around, and look, I'm sure I don't want to bore anyone with an explanation. The point is, it's the first Gideon. The first Gideon is voiced by lovely Miranda Baccarin, Leslie Tompkins on Gotham, and of course Vanessa from Deadpool.
Vanessa.
Miranda Baccarin. Vanessa. He's mono joked against me there. Okay. So, so Gideon, she informs us she was like the personal computer that we revealed in like the last episode or getting to the last episode where Barry Allen in the future built Gideon, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the point is the future computer, like the future computer system, tells tells Reverse Flash that his time traveling diminished his speed. So now he's lost his connection to the Speed Force, which means there is no way back.
And he lets out a big old no.
It's a very scary no, because the Reverse Flash is doing the thing to obscure his face. They're like, no!
And then he takes off his mask to reveal not
Thawne.
Harrison Wells. Yes, not Harrison Wells in a twist. Certainly,
and that's the big reveal. And I like how we get the... And this was something, I remember the first time watching the season, just kind of wondering where they're going with it, because I had an idea about that. I knew certain things about the Reverse Flash. I knew the actual guy's name, but I was wondering how Harrison Wells fits into all this.
Sure.
And when when he unmasked himself, there's like, okay, where are we going with this? Like, you imagine, okay, Harrison Wells just like traveled back in time and inserted himself into history, but like, what the heck's going on here?
Yep.
So seemingly, it is not Wells.
All right, good kind of tease to open the episode on as we cut to the logo, and then moving on from there, we're at the prison.
Iron Heights. We got Iron Heights. Which, by the way, a little fun fact: if I'm understanding correctly, Iron Heights is a prison that is also in the Arrow show. So it's I would like to think that Iron Heights is right in between the two cities. It's right in between Central City and Star City. So you have kind of you can both prison basically have a lot of crossovers in prison.
Makes sense. Well, also remember the Defenders also had a majority of their crossover stuff in the jailhouse.
That's true.
Thanks to our favorite episode of the Defenders, isn't that right, Dragon?
You betcha.
God. Anyways.
Anyway, go fish in this jailhouse. So, Barry and Joe, they warn. They're warned by one of the guards. They're warned that James Jesse talked his last shrink into suicide. So try giving them this. They gave him some red licorice to basically kind of soothe the savage beast and get him to talk to him.
Let's quickly address the Silence of the Lambs factor in the room here, because I think that's a big part of at least the first act of the episode. The first act of the episode is kind of like a big mislead into thinking it's going to be a Silence of the Lambs story.
And how can we make this episode any better? Okay, we got Reverse Flash, we got Mark Hamill, we got we have a lot of '90s Flash cheese going on here. What else can we throw in there? I don't know. Make Mark Hamill kind of like Hannibal Lecter. Yes. God bless this writer's room. Anyway, so yes, very Hannibal Lecter-esque introduction, and I love this as we can.
Do you think the licorice is Twizzlers or Red Vines?
Honestly, I think it's Twizzlers. Honestly.
I hate Twizzlers, but Red Vines are tolerable.
But
I don't like licorice in general, but if I had to choose, I'd definitely go Red Vines over Twizzlers.
Here's the thing, though. I think it's luminescent like Red Vines, but I mean it maneuvers and it's a brighter red and it's more malleable like Red Vines, but it's thick like Twizzlers, so it's kind of hard to tell.
What do you prefer over Red Vines or Twizzlers, Dragon? What's your personal preference?
Honestly, I've been more of a fruit roll-up man myself. But,
I think that's a cheat. Fruit roll-ups are not licorice.
I know you're right. I'm not much of a licorice guy. I'm just saying if I've had it, I'd probably opt for the Red Vine. But again, I'm not really a licorice guy. I'm
just trying to extend this licorice conversation out as long as I can, just because it's funny. But
there's a Lou Costello tangent I could go on, but I won't. We're gonna get back to the episode now. So
let's all go to the lobby.
That's why it was.
Let's all go to the lobby. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, so we have very Hannibal Lecter-esque introduction with the Tricksters theme in this show, which I love. It's not the same theme like Shirley Walker did the original theme in the Flash show. So they didn't just use that again. But what they did was cool though. They used they had a really cool theme worked out. And what they did is they played on a toy piano. Dun, 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 dun. So it's cool.
Nice, nice.
So I love this, and I love that we have a bit that homages directly Silence of the Lambs. It's the whole the Avalon skin cream bit, where in this case, I can smell them in your pocket. Where he smells the licorice in Barry's pocket. So let's address broadly right now. So Mark Hamill, big surprise, he's great. He's amazing.
No, Mark Hamill being really good in something.
I know, unbelievable, right? I mean, these like cast him off like a commercial or something, didn't they? Some like space commercial, like about toys or something. I don't know. Anyway, okay, but in all seriousness, so Mark Hamill, he's amazing in this, and I'm so delighted. Again, if nothing else, this episode probably my favorite because of Mark Hamill. But this episode has everything going for it. So what I do is he's intimidating while being charismatic, which again we know for a fact for at least 25 years at this point he's been very good at. But in this case, I love he can do that without being entirely that character.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, there's there's a little bit of a Joker in there with the we get some maniacal laughs here and there, but we get the feeling that this guy is more just sort of like it's weird. Like in a way, he's both more fun-loving and more sinister than the Joker. Like he's almost kind of like a twist on the Joker. I don't know.
I'm sorry, T. It's just you were cutting out a little bit there. I mean, I can
Really?
I'll say. Yeah, T. I'm sorry. It's gonna have to. I think you might have to just come back in again. I don't have to tell you. I'll lead him through it.
That's troubling, but go ahead. All right, I'll be right back.
Anyway, so folks, let's see. So as he plays up the intimidation and the and kind of the charismatic quality there, and as I think Tiki was alluding to, and I was definitely going to jump in with, is that the cool thing is, the Trickster has always been a character that, if you look in the grand history of the DC Universe, they do rip off each other now and again. I'm not saying the Trickster's a rip off, but I think that's part of the gag. Where I remember there was like a scene in the comics once where like they all gathered around, like the age-old joke about the Joker was like Trickster, I think, was the one who said this, which is why I think it's really fitting. He said, when we supervillains want to terrify each other, we tell Joker stories. So there's definitely there's a reputation involved in these characters, and a lot of them are aware that we're kind of knockoffs of each other. We're kind of we're our own artists, but based on the same gimmick. So in that respect, I think the Trickster is always kind of there's always a little bit of Joker within the Trickster, because Joker is the king of the Trickster-esque villains. I don't mean like the Flash's Trickster. I just mean kind of your Loki type, kind of the guys who love to be charming and kind of they're shysters and they're dangerous and they love to kind of do mean things to people. That sort of Trickster quality. So obviously with a character like the Trickster and like the Joker, definitely some correlation, definitely some overlap there. Anyway, let's see. So again, we have this very Hannibal-esque, very kind of Silence of the Lamb-esque setup here. He's behind glass and he's talking to Barry and Joe, and they're telling him about the bombing. Basically, you can probably fill in the blanks, folks are asking for help. And Mark Hamill, again, he's delivering the heck out of this episode. And again, he had gotten into shape, I'm pretty sure, for Force Awakens at this point. And again, he's looking really good too. I mean, it's Mark Hamill, I think, and coming back to Star Wars, I think really helped him out in the years. And I'm not saying he was in bad shape or anything. I'm just saying I think he's taking more of a taking on more live action roles, perhaps because now he's kind of been prepared for definitely with Force Awakens in appearing, and now he's just I think it's just tailor made just to be kind of firmly in the roles now. I think it's I'm back and I'm in the fray, just like the old days in the 90s. So let's see. So he's they asked him about the bombing. He says, bombing sounds like fun, but there's a flaw in the delivery. No basically saying that no casualties. I mean, if you don't kill anyone when you're doing something like this, like a big old mass bombing like this, it's like the Cubs winning the world. It's like the Cubs winning the pennant. Never happened. His dialogue is really on point this episode. It really is. The dialogue is so on point. So let's see. So they essentially theorize that the new guy found sorry, just trying to make sure you have my bearings here. Oh yeah. So again, they're continuing to ask about the bombs, and basically they say, okay, the bombs that were used are the same bomb type that he used years ago. And, of course, Trickster's claiming that's impossible because he never told that formula to anyone. He swears, and this is important for the scheme of the episode here, he swears that if he knew he would tell him because he hates amateurs stealing his act, stealing his throne, if you will. Joe plays to his ego again, very much kind of Silence of the Lambs, fill in the blank here type stuff, where like hey, prove there's one trickster, and again, Jesse kind of calls him out on this. Oh, Joseph, trying to trick the trickster. Just kind of playing around with the licorice, fun little prop work going on there.
All right, how am I now?
Golden.
Okay, you know what? Every time I start talking, my bird starts yelling. Can you hear
Yeah,
my bird?
no, I don't hear the birds at all, Tiki. It's like you've been knocked out and you're seeing birds flying around you. That's what the effect is here. But no, we're not hearing any birds.
Wait. So the effect when I start to go out is it sounds like I've been knocked out. What? I'm not following you.
It's like when you hallucinate. It's like a cartoon. You get hit on the head and you see the little birds flying around. It doesn't matter. The point is you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, let's see. So we are at the point where, basically the Trickster, he's playing ball and he theorized that, okay, the new guy probably found his lair and he'll help them only on one condition. He will help them on the condition that when you find him, make sure your safety's off if you're this wannabe faker. Basically wants him to kill the wannabe faker.
And then we get a great Mark Hamill maniacal laugh in the process, which is quite different from his Joker laugh, to give him credit.
And again, if anyone wants proof that Mark Hamill is a versatile actor with kind of in voice work, even just as an example, and I really went into the finer details, like what the difference between the Trickster and the Joker is, so we don't need to go through all that. But the point is,
good.
Like Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, he plays a very different sort of Joker in that movie, where he plays like a kind of darker, kind of low key Joker. So again, the guy's got range, and he's not just like kind of play things one way. It's not an age factor. It's like there is a choice in the performance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. So after that, Iris. Meanwhile, Iris is
plot line that I just Dragon. I have no recollection of this Mason Bridge guy at all. None.
Yeah, it's very. Look, I'll just make it simple for you. You don't have to work. Put it simply, Iris is asking Eddie, and I remember you loved these two kids together, Tiki, didn't you?
I like Eddie. I'm not a big Iris fan, but I do like Eddie.
Well, again, benefit of Iris consistently got better as it went on. So Iris, again, I thought she was fine the first and kind of jumped back and forth a few times. Once she was looped into things, she was better.
Fair enough. I don't know. I just like Eddie on his own. He just seems like I like that Eddie is. What I like about Eddie is that he can be kind of a jerk at times, but he tries not to be, and he's not like a stereotypical like jerky boyfriend character.
Certainly.
Anyway,
so Iris is asking her BF Eddie to look into the disappearances of her journalist pal. Basically, she had a journalist pal who was trying to closing in on I don't know if you remember this. The very beginning of the 2 or 3 episodes in Harrison Wells, back when we were really building up Harrison Wells, when he just kind of randomly murdered people. This guy was kind of investigating one of the early murders when he killed Simon Stagg. He stabbed Simon Stagg.
I mean, I remember Harrison Wells randomly murdering people.
That's the thing. The first guy he randomly murdered, that's who he's looking into. And basically, the Mason Bridge. Mason Bridge was a journalist friend of Iris's who was looking into the death of that guy, Simon Stagg. And basically, Reverse Flash had to had to kill Mason so he would cover that up. And Iris has been looking for him ever since. That's a simple way of putting it.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so Captain Singh has put all hands on deck with the bombing. So he says, "Look, Iris, I swear to you, I'm gonna get on that right after we deal with this whole bombing Trickster business." So speaking of bombing Trickster business, we're at a warehouse.
It must be a Joker, Batman somehow tied into it related thing.
But I gotta tell you,
poorly constructed sentence.
I tell you, I never get old of the warehouse setting. It's we see it so often because it's a winning formula. It's a big old spacious location. You got all sorts of stuff you can put in there. A lot of violence can transpire. You can get away with a lot of stuff in a warehouse.
All right. I'm not complaining.
So we're in a warehouse, and of course, they have the funny line as they're basically it's the Trickster's lairs within this kind of carnival style warehouse. It looks like nobody's been here since the 90s.
I see what you did there, show.
And what's cool is, again, we see this. I love that it's not just in a line, too. We see the original Trickster costume that Mark Hamill wore is basically, or at least an approximation of it, is like on a dummy that has this huge Mark Hamill-esque laugh going on, like this giant, like Joker-esque smile almost. And let's see. So Barry is asking, basically, he's pondering, hey, what if Jesse's, do you think Jesse doesn't really know, and Joe's saying, "Well, he seemed pretty ticked off when when he thinks that someone's besmirching his bad name." So yeah, I think he means it. So Barry vibrates the lock off of the big kind of shipping container, and they open it. Basically, all the big danger stuff's kept in there. Open it, and then we have this awesome bit. And I love when Flash, you know me, I'm easy to please. When we see a hero save someone.
And of course, someone as pivotal as Joe West, and you know me, Dragon. I love my. Dragon.
Everyone loves Joe.
You know what line I'm about to quote. The world needs the Flash, but I need my Barry Allen. I mean, oh my god, that right there. It's like, Dragon, I already love Joe from the moment I saw him because I'm already attached to the actor, but that right there just sealed the deal for me. So anytime we see the Flash save Joe, or Joe and the Flash bonding, or Joe and Barry, it's all good. It's all good.
I mean, look, to put it simply, folks, Joe West has never had a bad scene in The Flash. I can say that.
Joe West is kind of like the Alfred of the Flashverse.
He's a cross between Alfred and Jim Gordon. It's very, because he's the fatherly Alfred, but at the same time, he's also the competent cop like Jim Gordon. So it's definitely it's a kind of a mixture there. All right, let's see. So basically, what we do is like the minute he opened the container, like Joe was about to be blown up, and Barry, like, he kind of everything turned slow-mo. So he rushed, Joe out there to save his life. So by a hair. So we reveal that the copycat, they go inside the now blown up kind of shipping container. They realize it was booby trapped, but on the inside everything's been cleaned out. A lot of stuff's it's empty. So we linger on it. Really great shot of the costume with that giant kind of laughing maniacally pose. Let's see, and then we're heading back to prison.
Yep. Hey, there's Misty Knight.
To be fair, that was a police station, not a prison. All right.
Okay, you're right.
To be fair. Anyway,
so we get a quick check in with Henry Allen.
Oh yeah, this is nice. And again, there's a lot of fatherhood. Again, we have we've been kind of gushing about Joe West. Again, the definite father figure, the MVP of father figures of Joe West, and of course the actual father figure. And these guys have some lovely scenes together when they have scenes together, Barry and Henry. And it's really nice that Barry, basically, they reference.
This league tried to like force feed this stuff in, and it's like, oh, the TV show just has so much mileage on you. You can't even start this stuff now. Wait till the solo Flash movie.
That's true.
Anyways,
so basically, this is the bullet point, I guess. He tells his father that they're close. They're close to getting him out of prison. Henry reminds him, and again, folks, I'm just going back to it because again, I haven't rewatched every episode. I'm assuming that all of our pivotal moments were in the mid-season finale, which was the Christmas episode, which just plays to our favor. Henry reminds Barry of the last emotional chat that they had about, Barry, you got to live your life. You can't obsess over this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a nice little bit that kind of doesn't just go into like a whole okay, rinse and repeat with Barry and Henry. It's like Joe is like, Joe, what's going on? Just hang in there, because Joe can't tell him much, but he's like, hey, Henry, believe the kid. We might be able to get you out soon. Just hang in there, buddy.
Yeah, nice bit there.
And the friendship between Joe and Henry Allen has always been fascinating. It's always been like, we had to arrest him, and he assumed that he was a murderer for many years, despite raising his son. So there's always a great complex relationship there. Now, of course, he's come around. That's beautiful. Okay, so we confront Jesse about the trap. Why you trap Bullard?
No candy, fellas.
Because Jesse was hoping that they'd be blown up, and he's less happy hearing, again, seemingly less happy about learning that the copycat is stealing his legacy, basically all the big danger stuff he had in that shipping container.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very, again, Mark Hamill is delightful. He gets so impassioned about his legacy.
Oh yeah.
You have to find, because again, it's like, forget all the games I was playing with you. You got to find him now.
and as we're about to find out shortly in the episode, it's a great layered performance by Mark Hamill, because he's playing a guy who's giving a very impassioned acting acting performance. You know what I mean? Like there's meta levels to this.
Oh, yes. So we're asking, what the heck was kept in that thing? What was the big special thing you're all freaked out about? And he says, there was a bomb in there, but not just any bomb. There was a bye-bye Central City-sized bomb in there. So Cisco, he sends the guys a new video being, if it's not live, then it's like a recently broadcast video by the new Trickster about, let's see, about the next task for the Flash, and this basically showing this his next trick, his next big crime, most likely about I think it's about the bomb. The point is the next big trick. And I love this. Joe puts it up to the glass of the cell, and this is where, like, when I was watching this episode the first time, I lost my mind at, oh my god, Mark Hamill, he's wonderful.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely great. You can see like the quiet horror on his face, and like I said, we get to the meta quality of the acting where he's really just putting on a performance for Barry and Joe. You know, so when you think about that, it becomes an even more impressive performance on a meta level.
So this infuriates Jesse, and he says this great line. I'm not doing it justice here just by streamlining it, but just take it from me, folks. He delivers such a beautifully impassioned, like in his own mind, it's an Emmy-winning performance. You know, for like what he's doing for Barry and Joe.
By Breaking Bad season 5.
Oh, don't jump the gun.
I'm sorry.
Take off my mask, you fraud. Take off my mask. He's just, oh my.
Really haunting scream.
He is, and again, like, he kind of whimpers and like, take off my mask. And again, he's like, it's so mentally unhinged, and it's, yes. Oh boy, so just wonderfully, and Mark Hamill, he's earning his paycheck, and he's earned tenfold that paycheck this episode, folks. So let's see. So Barry is still angry with Wells, and definitely everyone in the room, particularly Wells, they're noticing the tension. You know, he's definitely noticing the tension there. The new Trickster is using, I believe, I don't know if, I think Cisco says like Felicity Caliber, like a little arrow reference there. Like,
yeah, he said, yeah, he uses Felicity. Yeah, he name drops Felicity, who I believe is going to be in the next episode.
Oh. Well, again, I think I'm convinced that I'm remembering correctly, because I know we do it towards the end. We have the reason it's probably called All-Star Team Up is because the Green Arrow and Firestorm are in the episode. I think that's the team up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So I'm saying just in the title, because I remember I had the events unfold. I just don't remember like when and like the number of episodes left. Okay, so let's see. So basically, he's using Felicity Caliber scrambling tech to make sure you can't trace the phone, you can't trace the broadcast, which means they have no location on the guy. So Barry and Wells, they have a little word on the side, and of course, classically with Harrison Wells,
I know what's going on here, Barry. I know your secret.
There's always a great amount. This is what I love about Reverse Flash so much, Tiki, and I can't get enough of it. And this is where we get kind of that kingpin quality of the guys. Love we have this great kind of menacing innuendo throughout their conversation. Basically, you could take in almost any line you could read into it, like, oh my god, it's so clever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Basically, he's figuring that Barry's thinking about his father, and it's almost like, hey, you're thinking about your father because maybe you know what I did to him, put him in prison.
And I love how it's such a simple like write off of what Barry's actually worried about. Flash, that he's going to say. It's like, yeah. oh yeah, you're right. That's totally it.
And you kind of have to buy. And I mean, I think Tom Cavanaugh's such a good actor. You don't know what he wants you to believe, and it works somehow. It's where, it's I think that he doesn't know. I think he doesn't know that Barry's onto him in this episode. I think it's convincing enough that I buy that. But then again, it might be manipulating my emotions as a viewer, so I can't tell you, in all honesty. Anyway, so now here's where the beautiful conflict of it all is, folks, with Barry and this whole episode, and why this episode has this brilliant kind of layer here of the fatherhood angle. Is that the reason Barry's so conflicted, the reason he just can't bottle it, and you get it immediately, is that Barry's father figure, Wells is Barry's father figure, who's still learning from, and who made him a hero in the first place, yet he did all of that stuff for him. He's still that ever-present mentor. He's kind of his Steve Jobs / his, Stephen Hawking figure in his life, like the scientist that inspired him, as well as the scientist that kind of, mentored and made him into the Flash, made him into a hero, changed his life entirely. He did all that stuff, yet he very likely killed his mother.
Right.
So again, like, it's so conflicting, and you get entirely where Barry's coming from. Like, I can't trust that guy. How can I look that guy in the face? And but I still, he's still like that father figure to me.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically tells Wells, "I'm coming for the man who getting close to coming for the man who killed my mother." And of course Wells, without missing a beat, and again he's so convincing. That's what's so wonderful about Cavanaugh's performance here. Is well, I'll help you, and we'll do it together. Again, they seem like how can you doubt this guy? He's so convincing. Like, yeah, he'll help you out. He can't be the killer.
And
What are you, silly?
there's a great moment towards the end of the episode that kind of speaks to what you're alluding to, Dragon, where it's like by the end of the episode they're pretty damn sure that Wells is Reverse Flash, but Barry still kind of has to extend his hand to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And of course, Wells saying we need to focus on this right now, though, before we get to that.
Mm.
So let's see. So Iris, she contacts the Flash. Kind of again, basically, if the West family definitely fits into the Jim Gordon mold because Iris, she has the meeting scenes like Gordon and Batman, very much so. So Iris is contacting the Flash, and as Barry's about to leave to meet her, Wells has that haunting line: I'll always be here for you." And again, it's the conflict of like, oh my god, he's so that's so reassuring, but so conflicting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. And again, I love how our flashbacks are really. I think the flashbacks are a little more well triggered than they were on Arrow. At least Arrow, as it went on in seasons when we kept flashing back to the island, because these flashbacks, mainly because it's the first season, they know exactly where they're going, where they're paying all this off. So they're probably at their strongest with all these flashbacks here.
Yeah, honestly, this might be one of the strongest flashback episodes that we see in the Flash season 1 because I just really like the way it all ties everything together. It does good, kind of moving into the final parts of the mystery.
What's kind of cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What's kind of cool is the flashback we're about to delve into, where we meet Harrison Wells' wife, Tess Morgan, actually in a recent really good episode. And again, season 4 has been turning out some really good episodes here and there. There's a really good episode that kind of calls into the question the wife of Harrison Wells for a moment, and it was a really beautiful scene that Tom Cavanaugh got to play. So I mean, even in the 4th season, we're still harkening back to some of the really powerful stuff from this season.
Yeah, yeah.
So we flash back to we're on the beach. It's with Harrison and his wife, and they're planning like Star Labs, and kind of like Nelson and Murdoch-esque. They're kind of he's drawing like a napkin what the building's going to look like. And we get a lovely origin for the name Star Labs. Do you remember?
Well, the origin is basically, I forget what the exact acronym is, but she's saying, because he looks to the stars, essentially. It's a very sweet, sentimental gesture on her part. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact acronym written down.
Well, no, you don't need the acronym. I just mean the whole, the sentiment of it all. Basically, he's always looking to the stars, but what she says is really reassuring when she says, you're the only star basically, you're the only star I can see.
And then he just says this adorable line. He's like, oh, that's going to get you a kiss.
So, oh my god.
They are just so cute together, and Tom Cavanaugh is such a charmer.
And Tiki, I love the encroaching tragedy that you can feel in these flashes, because what we do is we see Thawne in the background. Like Thawne is watching, like Eobard is watching in the background. We know, because now we're seeing. Okay, so we've seen again in the flashbacks. We have this great mystery unfolding. We're okay. Reverse Flash has not been Harrison Wells the whole time. Yet there is Harrison Wells right there, and everything seems good. But we know Thawne is going to do something to Harrison Wells. Like, how the heck is he's going to be manipulating Harrison Wells? Like, what's going to happen?
Right.
And my God, does it unfold in a breathtakingly awesome way? So, in the present, Flash and Iris have a little meet and greet at Jitters, kind of a Batman Gordon scene, if you will, where she's asking help in finding Mason Bridge, which if I'm recollecting correctly, I'm pretty sure of this. I did a little light digging in the bags to make sure of this. I'm pretty sure that, well, we know by the end of the episodes. I mean, yeah, he has to know. It's just that he can't prove it 100%, but he suspects that Mason Bridge was killed by Reverse Flash. And again, he doesn't know if it's Harrison Wells 100% at this point, but like he's 90% certain it was Harrison Wells as Reverse Flash, but he can't tell that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, like, she's asking, can you help me find Mason Bridge? And he says, oh, I'm sure he's okay, which again, he's trying to cover that up there with little reassurances, but I'll look into it. And there's a really nice compassionate bit with Iris, and this is where Iris is winning me over in all these points in the first season, where it's like she's asking if he's okay. He says, "You okay?" It seems a little bit off with you. And Flash here, and this kind of speaking to the relationship between these two kids, these two crazy kids in love, Tiki. he wants to let her. Like, I don't. Sometimes I wonder why I wear a mask around you. Which is, well, maybe one day you won't have to. It's, oh my god, like, ah, let's put him on a beach somewhere where hopefully nothing bad will happen to him. Anyway, so live video is coming in. Uses Iris's laptop to see the incoming video from the Trickster. Basically, the Trickster's taunting everyone with a bomb crate, and we actually referenced the Dark Knight in this, but which maybe more of the Heath Ledger-esque kind of quality here, because we literally referenced the Dark Knight in this scene, where he says the bomb is on 52nd Avenue and Avenue B, which is reference to Avenue X and 250 52nd Street from the Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
A little fun little. So I think it's a deep cut Dark Knight reference, but anyway. So. Flash is on it. Flash can't find it. Wells figures it out, and I love this. And Tiki, I think this is genius writing here, where Wells figures it out, and being the smartest man in the room, he figures out it's a trick. There's no bomb. Yet Barry, he cannot trust him because, again, that doubt about killing his mother. He's in a place where he can't trust Wells, especially in a life or death matter, because he's just figuring now that he's going to pull the behind the scenes stuff that we've seen Wells do, where Wells has killed people.
Yeah, and that's and kind of the whole theme of the episode is all about kind of like mistrust and just kind of deception and all that. And it's interesting that this is kind of an episode where Wells, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's basically doing his best to help Barry. You know what I mean? He's not really doing anything to, he's not doing anything too sketchy this episode.
Yeah, and again, Tiki, I think that one of the most brilliant things of this whole episode, which I'll definitely be saying later on, but I think one of the most brilliant concepts of this episode is look at the title itself, Tricksters. And the whole thing with Tricksters is that the actual two Tricksters that we're having, again, you can look at it at face value where you have two Tricksters as in plural Tricksters. But in reality, the reason it's plural is because we have the Trickster plot with, Mark Hamill and company. But the real other Tricksters we have is the whole flashback story going on, like the whole, like, Harrison Wells and the Reverse Flash, the trick that's going on there, the deception, like the whole, like, is someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes type trick. So I love that dichotomy. I think it's one of those brilliant ideas with this episode that we have our dual Trickster plots going on, and they're fitting into each other very well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so basically, Flash, let's see, again, and this is cool too. Like everyone on, again, Caitlin and Cisco, they're they're like, why isn't he trusting him? What's going on? Why isn't he listening to Wells? They're in the dark completely on this. So the team's kind of frustrated with Barry as well. So he finds an empty crate and it says, like, written on it, "Tricked you." So again, the bomb was a diversion. We reveal that the bomb was a diversion. There's a great act break coming up, by the way. So the bomb was a diversion to break out, as Barry's informed of this from Joe, as Joe's watching the security cam footage. It was a diversion to break out Jesse, who then took Henry Allen hostage, which means they now have Barry's dad as a hostage, and then Mark Hamill has the line, Tiki.
Oh God,
that's one.
You're putting me on the spot with these lines, Dragon. And I told you I don't have very good notes. I already warned you about that.
All right, fine. Like, it's one hell of a trick.
That's one hell of a trick. All right. I apologize.
So yeah, Jesse has played everyone, and we learn when we come back from this, Jesse has played everyone, and he's took with the big trick of the episode. They're like, he manipulated everyone, like, there's an imposter, you gotta stop him. Like, no, the imposter's working for me. Or he's played everyone, and he took on Axel as his protege.
Dragon, like I said, you got to admit, it's a really good meta narrative in the first act to have it be like, almost like, surprise, I'm not the Hannibal Lecter at all. I'm actually Buffalo Bill.
Well, I mean, to be fair, though, I mean, Hannibal Lecter had an amazing escape in that movie, too, so he could still be Hannibal Lecter.
No, you're right, but, Hannibal Lecter wasn't really the antagonist of Silence of the Lambs, per se.
That's true.
Technically speaking.
Hey, you're not wrong.
Which is interesting to think of, because Hannibal Lecter, of course, is known as one of the all-time great movie villains, but I really don't think in terms of the story he's technically the antagonist.
I tell you, that escape, that's my favorite part of that movie, Tiki, that escape.
Anyways, we're kind of going down the rabbit hole with this discussion here.
Anyway, so yes, so basically the streamline what we're kind of talking about with our guys here, with basically our kind of our tricksters and company here. They picked Henry Allen not because they knew who the Flash was, because they don't. They picked him because the father of a cop makes for a quality hostage, which means no one's going to mess with us. We have a really good bargaining chip if should we need it. And I love that Mark Hamill. He's in the Trickster. He's like it's very Joker-esque, but it's kind of it's a modern kind of suit version of the Trickster. It's like it's checkerboard, pinstriped, and I love it has like the checkerboard pattern on the shirt underneath, like the original Trickster. So it's a good looking costume with a flower that's very Joker-esque with the flower.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this whole scene is very 90s. It's very 90s Flash like the way he's kind of the way the scene goes down, and Henry and sorry, what I was actually referring to is that it's very 90s Flash like how Henry Allen in the scene is, because again, the other big kind of star power of it all is that not only do we have John Wesley Shipp, who was the Flash in the 90s show, and that's the big, like, the passing of the torch angle you got going on there, is that you do have a scene where you have both John Wesley Shipp and Mark Hamill as the Trickster, the two guys who played off of each other as hero and villain.
And he's like, don't listen to him, kid. He's trying to trick you. He's trying to get into your head.
Yeah, Henry kind of playing the superhero in this scene.
Henry Allen basically can't help but be the encouraging father figure in any circumstance.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And he warns the Flash will stop you. And by the way, just to clarify, he does know that Barry's the Flash at this point, just so people know.
Okay.
So let's see. So after, here's the brilliance of the episode too, like where the ultimate kind of trick comes in. The ultimate trick. I'm going to make everyone think that it's Easter on April Fool's Day. No, that's not.
God.
Look, in all seriousness, so the actual trick is that after 20 years, he has the perfect trick. My masterpiece, my Breaking Bad season 5.
I like how this Trickster is a fan of pop culture references.
And I love that, you're right, and I love the explanation for that. No, they gave me cable so I would stop killing guards.
Which totally makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. It kind of reminds me of Leon in Mr. Robot, who only watched, Seinfeld. Like, he would just sit in his cell and watch Seinfeld all day.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And I love that. Actually, Trickster's playing, when you think about it, is kind of Dead Freight-esque. That's kind of what I read it as.
How so?
Well, I mean, in that it's kind of the perfect robbery he has kind of planned out there at the end. It's kind of like a Dead Freight-esque kind of operation going on there.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Sure.
I'm saying in terms like that, or like the magnet, that or like the magnet thing at the police station at the beginning of the beginning of season 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, the whole divide of season 5. I'm trying to make sure I'm not in the first half or the second half of season 5. That was always really strange to me why we divided it in half.
The magnet stuff is the first half, and then I believe Dead Freight is the second half.
Right. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Let's see. Where are we going after? Oh yes. So Axel's asking him why. Like, why? Just out of curiosity, why did you pick me? Why did you? How did you know I could do it? I knew you were the only one who could fulfill my legacy because it's in your blood.
And I'm sure the good folks at CW just love to have this opportunity to have Mark Hamill in a villainous way say, "That's right, I am your father."
And of course, we do the Trickster theme, but instead on the piano, we do it like the dramatic, and we homage Star Wars with literally we do reference Star Wars and like how they pitch down the music like a big bum bum bum. So that's great. And again, Tiki, it's like everything is in this episode. Not only one we're referencing Breaking Bad, but more so with Mark Hamill of you were doing the very obvious, in the best of ways that we're doing the "I am your father," and like. If you've ever seen that done before, we're kind of doing like we've even done that on Freakazoid, but never have you had Mark Hamill on the other side of it saying "I am your father" like this. And with this character, it's like mixing his two, his work with DC and his work with Star Wars together in a beautiful little reference there.
My personal favorite riff on "I Am Your Father," I think, is the Robot Chicken sketch where he's like, "Look, if you're not going to take this seriously, I'm out."
The Empire will be taken out by Ewoks. That's highly unlikely.
And I built C-3PO.
Wait, what? In the Force? It's actually mid. Okay, we're recapping the wrong thing anyway. So importantly, just with that reveal, and again, I love the "I am your father" thing isn't without merit because it is tying into the parallel of with Jesse and Axel. More specifically, you have Barry and Henry Allen, but the actual what I really think they're holding the mirror up to again with the whole tricksters of it all. You have James and Axel, but you also have Barry and Harrison Wells with that father figure angle. Because think about what they're saying about that fatherhood. They're saying they're kind of showing how with kind of your father son dynamics. You have a dynamic where you're doing anything to honor your father. Again, like in this case, you would have with Axel and Jesse. On the other side of it, you have a father doing bad things, but a father is letting you down, doing bad things, but you love him anyway. And that's what Barry's going through with Wells.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you have definitely some excellent father parables going on there. So let's see. So then our team Flash, they're learning that, okay, so Jesse and Axel have actually been male corresponding each other for years, and that's how they've been kind of planning this big little shindig, this big little escape. Barry blames himself for not listening to Wells. Poor Barry Allen. So, speaking of Wells, we have another awesome flashback. It's like that deleted plot line from Finding Nemo, where it had all the great revealing flashbacks building to a big dramatic moment. It's getting even better.
I forgot about that.
How amazing! Remember, they worked that in the Finding Dory. That idea made its way in the Finding Dory. And it was good in that too, by the way. But I think it was that original. Anyway, sorry. So yes, the flashback. The flashback. We go to the night of Wells's famous car accident. The car accident that it didn't put him in a wheelchair. Just to be clear about it. The particle accelerator put him in a wheelchair. So the night of Wells's car accident, he's having a lovely time with Tess, and I love this. I always read it like this. That Tess is like having some really adorable banter with Tom Cavanaugh here.
Oh, I'm definitely not wearing pajamas.
And of course, there's no pajamas. Hello. When he says that. Yeah, now, what's so adorable about them, what I kind of read into it, is that again, that's a lighter, like a romantic version of a trick. Again, with the whole tricksters of it all. There, it's like, okay, it's like a little. Oh, I got you on that one, didn't I? It's just the. And again, like the minute that happens, and something terrible is about to unfold. So, let's see. So then we see that Thawne is like waiting on the side, and we learn that he orchestrated the accident with like the spike strips that were laid out. So the car flips over. It's really horrific and really brutal. And then, this bit breaks my heart. Tom Cavanaugh it's so tragic the way Tom Cavanaugh plays this scene here, where poor Wells, he's a desperate man. Again, we just saw how in love he was with this woman. Again, this is amazing, T. We've only seen this woman 2 times in the entire series yet.
I know.
I'm buying this relationship so hard, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So poor Wells, he's desperate. He's upside down in the car, like he's like trying to climb out of the car, and he mistakes Eobard Thawne, the orchestrator of all this, for a helpful bystander. And he's just begging for his help. Please help my wife. Please help. And then Eobard Thawne, these are the reasons I love Reverse Flash with the Kingpin here. He's so cruel, yet he's so flaunting that he's from the future. This woman's been dead for centuries. Like, oh my, it's so ruthless. And so like, I'm not going to help your wife. Whatever you do here doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my god! So then and I love this. This woman's been dead for centuries. And then with this edit, I love that we cut the Star Labs. So as their relationship dies, we see what their relationship started, which was Star Labs in the present. So we cut from the origin of Star Labs to Star Labs in the present, like that.
Yeah. So we get a nice kind of like father-son conversation between the father figure and the son figure, if you will.
Yes. So Barry and Joe.
Yeah, so Barry's just kind of he's just worrying about leaving his father's fate in the hands of the Trickster.
Yeah. And
I'm
Joe
reassured. Remind me why Barry's like not going after the Trickster right now.
Well, again, they don't have a location on the Trickster. That's the main problem. So Barry's just kind of brooding and he's worried, and Joe's reassuring him that Henry is leverage, which means they need him alive. So chances are he's alive right now. He's in good shape. They're going to keep him safe. And then what Barry's kind of communicating to Joe here is, Joe, I can't keep this up with Wells. I'm spoiling that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I can't keep this up with Wells. And, and basically Joe, and oh my God, Joe is so lovely in the scene here where he says, we were both, essentially we were both sold on him. And Joe, as a police officer, he's trained to find faults and kind of flaws in people. And again, he suspected Wells and he was won over by him. So he feels a little worse himself as well. And oh my God, this line's fantastic here where he says, I wish I could see the world like you do, Barry, because your real power is that you see the best in people.
Yeah, that's almost this episode's I Need My Barry Allen.
Oh my God. Jesse L. Martin, my friend, is not here, but he makes a valid point. Again, all that matters is that he's helping us. And again, it's like a cop thing. Think of him as essentially what he's saying in not so many words. Like, think of him as a CI. We're going to use him to get to what we need, and then we'll just cut him loose.
Right.
And of course, what is the line that Barry has? He says, "I can't lose my dad, Joe." It's, oh my God, it's so heart-meltingly beautiful. It's just, I can't lose my dad, Joe.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice. Some good heart-tugging emotions in this episode.
So now we're entering into the awesome, very 90s Flash-inspired third act of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Iris is attending Mayor Bellows' event at City Hall. I don't know if it's a re-election campaign, but it's something celebrating the mayor. So the Trickster, both Tricksters, by the way, both Tricksters are disguised as waiters giving out champagne. And again, I love this. And he did this on the original show too, where he'd kind of dress up as like other, disguise along with him, Trickster. And they're both giving out champagne, even though something bad's about to happen. He says, "Okay, so when we give out the last of the champagne, that's when the fun's about to begin."
Oh yeah.
So James, the Trickster, he's emceeing the event to Bellows' to the mayor's surprise.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
No, not like that. Mayor Anthony Bellows. He doesn't shout at his staff. He bellows.
Ew, tough crowd.
I love this. I think he's homaging like Jerry Lewis or someone, like the old stage comedian gag where it's like
the tucking at the collar thing.
And you see what I did there with the words, and I think, it's like explaining a joke, it's just him playing the bad stage comedian. It's hilarious. So and again, I love this. The crowd loves him until the big Trickster reveal. And I'm going to read into this because it's not intentional, but I just love the novelty of it. That the line he says, so the mayor says, like, "Who are you?" He says, how quickly they forget, which kind of reminds me of Mask of the Phantasm. He says, "Why, Artie, I'm crushed. How the high and mighty forget." So that reminds me of. Anyway. So he reveals, he removes the wig and, it makes his hair look like the Trickster. The Trickster, of course, and he has a very clever plan. I love this plan. And this plan feels very, again, it feels well figured out, like a Breaking Bad Season 5, because it is kind of a bulletproof plan for all intents and purposes. It's definitely flashy, let's say, but it does feel kind of foolproof. Mm-hmm. So he's got a room full of Central City's finest and the elite, which means they're loaded. And they've all been drinking the champagne that, as the Trickster says, you've been slurping down like so much fruit punch. And he reveals that the champagne has been poisoned with trimethylmercury 32, which means they have an hour to live unless they call their banks. They call the number at the bottom, unless they call their banks and have all of their money transferred. Basically, have their banks transfer their funds into the account number on the bottom of their wine glasses.
For your convenience, it's right there. We don't have to go through it. Yeah. And then, of course, that poor schlub that showed up an hour early to the party just bites it right then and there.
I just love the casual nature in which the Trickster says, "Oh yes, I remember you. I gave you the very first glass of champagne an hour ago." Of course he does, and then this is a little bit I love here, where he, after that little demonstration with the guy who showed up an hour early, says, "If any one of you call 911, well, then you'll be suffering from a case of lead poisoning." As he pulls out a gun.
Because Mark Hamill likes his wordplay.
So what Iris does is she dials Joe. So basically, Joe is listening to all this.
Mm-hmm.
And so Team Flash is on it. Wells and Caitlin, they get an antidote ready. Cisco's working on the location. Meanwhile, James Jesse, and again, I love how quick and beat. Like this third act is very economic with how they're using their time. It's like bam, bam, bam. It's great.
It is. Yeah.
So Jesse is hitting on Iris a bit, and this is really funny. It's really silly. Says, I've been in prison for 20 years. Well, then you're familiar with the routine when you go back. Like, way to go. And those are like the moments with Iris. Like, yeah, Iris, like she's really well characterized in this episode.
And again, Dragon, I hate to keep bringing it up, but it does kind of call to mind the Heath Ledger Joker of it all, where, he crashes the party because, think about it. He's crashing a party of the rich and elite. And then he's kind of like creepily flirting with the girl, the whole like, hello, beautiful. I don't know. I can kind of see some parallels there.
D, if we're going to compare Heath Ledger to any actor in this universe, I wouldn't mind comparing it to Mark Hamill.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, let's see. So then we have a Flash just kind of swooping in right after he's hitting on Iris, and of course, like, okay, that's the last straw. Hitting on my girlfriend, that's the last straw. He pins Trickster against the wall, and he's saying, "Where's Henry Allen?"
Mm-hmm.
And Axel. Now I love this team. We get into the reason in a millisecond here. So Axel, he attaches a bomb to the Flash's wrist. Now this is an idea from, and it was a really cool plot point in an animated movie called Justice League Doom. Justice League Doom, it's based on a story called Tower of Babel, where basically Batman had preventative measures. Basically, Batman could take down the Justice League if they ever went rogue. And they did an animated movie based on that, where basically bad guys took those plans and they made them lethal. And the thing with the Flash was the Flash's villains, like one of like Mirror Master was looped into it. So Mirror Master, he took that plan. What he did is, the bomb, it was the same exact thing. The bomb was bolted through Barry's wrist. In this case, it's not bolted, but the point is, like, he has a bomb attached through his wrist. And, if he ran under the speed limit, he would blow up. So basically what he did that, he took kind of that visual, like cool visual, like, okay, a bomb that if the Flash, if he basically will tire himself out and explode. That's the plot there. And he basically likened it to speed, which is really funny.
Yeah, again, with the part, I love the Trickster and the pop culture references. It's just
a
fun quirk to his character.
So that's a really clever mixture there of taking something kind of a really cool idea, but also kind of making it simple for the everyman with the speed reference. Like, Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock. Basically saying it's a kinetic bomb that will go off if Flash runs, if Flash runs under 600 miles per hour, the bomb will go. Or he tries to remove it, the bomb will go off. And then we have this great line from the promo that still is burned into my brain in such a lovely way, Tiki. Run, 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 run! Just he's so excited and so giddy.
I'm sorry, I love that that's from the promo. I'll have to look up the promo and see how it's used in that context.
Literally the shot right before us of him just saying, run, 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 run! Okay, let's see. So Star Labs, they need to figure out how to remove the thing without touching it, which again is the trouble, and it's the same solution as in the animated movie, by the way. Just it's a different kind of locale, but it's a cool idea, and I'm so glad to see it. So this episode literally has everything cool about the Flash and about the Trickster and everything is in this episode. So let's see. So need to remove without touching it. Wells has a plan. Wells has a really dicey plan. Here's another, again, a huge landmark thing, like that Christmas episode is right here. The plan is to vibrate through a wall. Now, of course, Teak, it's a huge landmark thing. It's a classic for the Flash, and in the show, this is the first time he's learned how to do this. And again, the Reverse Flash is teaching Flash one of his classic tricks, and this is important. He teaches him how to vibrate his molecules, basically teaches him how to phase through things by vibrating himself at a super speed so he can just pass through things like a ghost. It's really cool. It's a big moment for him. Basically, that's like the Flash. Basically,
on like a big monologue about like feel the lightning underneath your feet. I'm sorry, I don't have the whole thing written down, but I just remember it being like almost Shakespearean in the way he's describing it.
Well, it is, and looking at it through that kind of that fatherly perspective, Tiki, you get to see that it's very much like it's the teaching him to ride the bike without the training wheels. It's a very personal like little moment between them.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Barry's in a position, and writing-wise is brilliant. How Barry's in a position where he has to trust Wells or he will die. So, and he talks Barry through, and again, like he's experienced it, which will definitely play into the very ending of this episode, where basically to give you the best bits of it. Feel the lightning passing through every nerve. Basically telling him that you're part of the Speed Force. And
Yeah,
again,
you're no longer part of yourself. You're part of the Speed Force.
And again, if I'm remembering correctly, I think this is the introduction of Barry to the Speed Force, and I think this might be the first time we mention what the Speed Force is.
Mm-hmm.
Which again is another huge Flash. Again, we do a lot of big Flash. This episode has everything in it. So we introduce, and again, what's so cool about the Speed Force, we mentioned earlier in the episode with Reverse Flash, is that again, so kind of like to quote George Lucas again, give me the Lucas line, Tiki.
I'm sorry, what Lucas?
The red letter media line. It's like symmetry, it's like poetry.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Exactly. So we introduce Barry to, basically the Reverse Flash is introducing Barry to what he lost. I mean, how poetic is that?
Sure.
Again, how to phase. So now he learns how to phase, which again, basically when Flash learns how to do this, he's kind of unstoppable in the grand scheme of things. And do it now, and he does it, saves him in the nick of time, he phases through a wall, the bomb's left on the other side, boom, Flash has survived, hooray. So cutting back to our little gathering there. So as the money flows into everyone's accounts, the lobster's on me, kid. It looks like, hey, okay, it's a dead freight victory, but then of course we're going to have kind of a tragic punctuation to their little victory party here.
Oh yeah.
Not as tragic as what happened in Dead Freight, but it's it's a more lighthearted version of it here, where Flash.
I still remember the night that I watched Dead Freight. Like I was over at my alternate, I was over house sitting, right? Mm-hmm. And my dad was because my dad was at my house and I was house sitting somewhere else. And as soon as I saw the finale for Dead Freight, I called my dad and I was like, oh my God, the way that they tied that cold open together was so ingenious. That's the thing that I love about Dead Freight Dragon, is that it might be the best use of a cold open in Breaking Bad's history.
Sure.
Anyways, I'm sorry. I don't want to go on a tangent about it.
Just in case anyone's like, oh, there's nothing like Dead Freight, then look at the first episode of season 5, the one with like the magnet truck thing. That's what that'll be the simple.
Magnet, bitch.
That's what I'm saying. If anyone is like having any qualms with the Dead Freight, then go with that one, all right?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so while the party's going on here, basically Flash is about to put a damper on the lobster, like no lobster for you guys. As Flash injects the entire room with the cure, and I love just the
that wasn't very sanitary.
Great line. It's the great fourth wall line. So he's asking for a location because Trickster's beat. And I love that we didn't see him like pummel the Trickster, because we don't want to see Mark Hamill be beaten mercilessly. That's not nice.
Of course.
Only if he's animated do we want to see that. So he asks for a location, and we see a lovely little moment where the Flash saves Henry Allen from from basically a falling knife-related death trap.
It's kind of like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit style death trap almost.
It is. That's how the Trickster thinks, and it's great. So then we have and this is a beautiful little father-son moment between, and again, this is the first time Henry's like kind of experienced his son in the suit. So because again, he knows what he's put it together, and like he mentioned it once that he knew what he's been doing, or they've been a little tongue in cheek about it, but they knew, and now they're finally addressing it, where he saves him and he unmasks himself, and Henry Allen John Wesley Shipp, the actor who portrays the original Flash, has this wonderful little line. He has two bits in this episode that really get me. This is one where he says, "You always look good in red."
Yeah, nice.
Nice. And again, there's a fun meta quality, as we mentioned with like Mark Hamill. There's a meta quality. There's a meta quality of like a passing of the torch vibe in two scenes in this episode. That's the first one. Like, hey, I look good in red. You look good in red. And now the aftermath of they're going to take Henry back to prison in the morning. But what they did is, they're showing while Henry's out and while he's free for like a night, they're showing Henry the lab. They're showing Henry Star Labs before Joe has to take him back. And it's a nice little meet and greet. He gets the chance to meet everyone. Everyone is working on his case.
Caitlin. Caitlin's basically been in the shadows the whole episode, but she has this adorable moment where she's like, Dr. Wells, I feel the need to give you a hug. And then he's just like, oh, I can't pass up a hug.
Yeah,
so pleasantries, Dragon. Pleasantries up the wazoo.
Dr. Allen, by the way. Don't get me wrong, it would still be nice if she hugged Harrison Wells, but I'm
sorry. I can see Caitlin. I mean, she gives Barry a hug too, so Caitlin's just in a hugging mood this episode, so you can just picture, like, how about you, Dr. Wells? Do you want a hug?
It is sneaky.
Again, Harrison Wells is just like, why, yes, Caitlin, a hug would be quite nice.
If you look at the grand scheme of The Flash, if you ever go back to the pilot, you will see that Caitlin, because they actually changed how they wrote her. In the first episode, they were going like a literal kill or frost thing, where it's like, okay, she's very cold and distant to everybody. So she's like always in a bad mood.
I remember not liking Caitlyn at all at the start. She was like by far my least favorite character.
That's the thing. Then really quickly they fixed that. So it was like in that first episode, maybe two. It's like where they were just figuring her out. Of like, yeah, we got to go back to the drawing board on that.
I mean, she's still not my favorite character, but I do like that they definitely warmed her up a lot.
Just take my word for it. Give it time.
Okay.
Anyway, let's see. So, so we have hugs, niceties, all that stuff. Yay. And now here's the great passing of the torch subtext between the father and son here, where it's where again, like in a meta quality, one speedster to another, where he's not a speedster, but it's like, hey, it's like here's like the older guy telling the younger guy, how's it feel? There's nothing like it. Like, oh my god, it's so nice. It's like, yeah, it's like two guys relating to that feeling. That's nice. So then this is a bit beautiful. This is why we needed this scene with Henry Allen. This is why it all comes to a great little culmination here, where Henry Allen thanks Dr. Wells. Genuinely, he thanks him genuinely, and Wells promises to. And again, I love the word choice on this, Tiki. It's very specific. It's very purposeful. He promises to ensure Barry's future. He doesn't say he's going to look out for him. He says he's going to ensure Barry's future. In a way, again, it's like the best liars in the world that tell you the truth, where he's like he's not lying to him. He needs to ensure Barry's future so his own future remains intact. But at the same time, again, it's a lovely thought, and it's a lovely moment between these two men, the father figure and the actual father. And another lovely bit is where Joe refuses to cuff Henry Allen, because again, he feels guilty that he had, and especially with Harrison Wells in the room, he feels guilty that I cuffed the wrong man, I've ruined his life, and I'm not going to cuff him again. So that's sort of like, oh man. So on the way out, he says, here's the bit between Wells and Barry as Henry's.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's really interesting that by the end of the episode, my father has showed Wells some respect, so I can't help but pass that respect forward to Wells.
Where Wells says, "You're lucky to have him."
Mm.
And Barry says, "I'm lucky to have you too."
Oh my god.
And again, you can see as he's walking away, like Barry kind of has to say that, but he does mean it on some level. So it's still painful for Barry because he feels that, but he has to also, he has to say that to save face, but he also believes it to an extent. It's like, how can I be? This guy, he killed that man's wife. He killed my father's wife. He killed my mother. And yet at the same time, it's like, I kind of like him.
Right. It's such a good conundrum.
Yeah, so then we have, oh my god, basically it's like it's broken, the very tail end of it's broken off to like the after credits thing, but oh my god, like we have the final big flashback. So again, it's like the moment you kind of, and that's why we play that moment like that with Barry. It's like, again, you kind of like him, but we got to show you what the danger is in that. So we flash back to the big payoff.
And to be fair, like a lot of season one was kind of built on that whole formula of, Wells does something super likable, but wait, no, he's a bad guy.
But seriously, Dave, this flashback is my favorite. The whole flashback subplot is my favorite in all the CW shows. I really gotta tell you, I think it's like a one-off narrative, like telling a story in flashback. You can't do any better than this. With in the CW verse, where Eobard, he introduces himself to Harrison Wells, and after he's basically said that horrible thing about like, oh, your wife, she's been dead for centuries. He says, my name doesn't matter. It won't matter for many more years. What matters is you. In 2020, you and your wife Tess launch. You and your wife, Dr. Wells, launch the particle accelerator. I need it to happen sooner.
A lot sooner.
By the way, so I just want to give him credit. Matt Lencher, he portrays Eobard Thawne, and I want to make it clear, I love both actors, and I love them both as the Reverse Flash, and again, I love that we can get both. And this is how you do it right, guys, and this is what my hope is for Gotham. If we ever have to supplant Jerome, I can only hope they do a good job like this, where you have another equally compelling actor, because that's what we have here. We have two very compelling actors as Reverse Flash, and I haven't
seen nearly enough of this guy to compare him to Tom Cavanaugh, though. So I'll have
just
to
trust me
on that.
Tiki, just trust me. This guy, when he's the big bad guy of Legends of Tomorrow season 2, and it's on Netflix again, and that's a shorter season than the CW shows. If you ever watch that, he's the big bad guy through that season. My God, he's He's the kingpin of the seed. Again, these guys together, they form a kingpin performance. Even alone, that guy carries it. He's fantastic.
Nice.
Matt Luncher, he's a very excellent actor. Anyway, so he says, I need it to happen sooner. So he uses this device to steal Harrison Wells' ID. Basically switches DNA and basically steals appearance and everything. Steals identity. And again, he needs to
mention this horrific shot of just the life being sucked out of the Harrison Wells, the good Harrison Wells, the one that we know and love.
Oh yeah, and again, seemingly this is the last you would see of the good Harrison Wells. And again, stuff in the other seasons, I don't want to give anything away, but let's just say, so again, it's a murder. Again, like, he needs to get back sooner, and he's willing to murder. And what's so clever is that time travel is always a precarious thing, and the Reverse Flash knows how to time travel and do it right, because what he's doing here is that he is enacting exactly what happens in history just earlier. So again, he's being very careful of how he alters the past.
Right.
The way he basically, this futuristic device, it switches your genetic code, your blood, your identity, and basically it makes him look exactly like Harrison Wells down to every genetic level. Basically, it's like Gattaca on steroids, essentially.
That's crazy.
And in the process, it essentially turns Harrison Wells into a kind of a zombie corpse, and it's horrifying. It's still, to this day, is a very scary effect. I mean, yes, you can see the CG, but it's very horrific in the performance. So then we cut back.
There is a Lost thing that I could totally compare this to, but I won't bore you with the details of it. But stuff is to say, if anyone's a Lost fan, this kind of reminds me of the fake John Locke storyline that we get late in the Lost run. I won't bore you with the details on that, Dragon. Just kind of thought I'd shout that out. Anyways,
it's in the present. I love how there's a subtext to the scene. So Joe and Barry, they let Eddie in on the big secret, that he's the Flash, and they basically loop him in after all these episodes. They finally loop Eddie in because they kind of have to, with Iris going to both the Flash and going to Eddie Thawne about this. Mm-hmm. And this is a huge moment for a couple reasons. I think the biggest reason that's subtextual is that, I mean, definitely, because Reverse Flash did introduce his full name. He said Eobard Thawne. So I think your average viewer can put it together that there's a correlation between him and Eddie Thawne. And basically that's like spelled out. If no one got it before, they get it now. And the way you could read this is that this moment, looping him in, like linking Eddie Thawne to the Flash, is what, in essence, creates Reverse Flash. So this moment here is essentially what creates the Reverse Flash in the distant future, like looping these two guys into their story.
And I really like the performance on, I'm sorry, I don't know the actor off the top of my head, but, just in his eyes, just kind of the shocked expression, like, oh my God, this whole time you've been like right under my nose and I never even suspected you.
Yeah. And yeah, like, he does take it very well.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Drag, why don't you give the actor credit, because I don't know his name.
Well, I'm a little fuzzy on that, because again, you remember, he's only in one season, Tiki. I'm kind of a little fuzzy on that.
Wait, Eddie's only in one season?
Well, I mean, they bring him back. He has a few guest appearances, but he's not, not as often as like Matt Luncher or anything.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing. I was kind of
No, he's good. I'm just saying they bring him back. I'm just saying he's not like
he was one of my favorite parts of season 1, so that kind of takes away my excitement for season 2 a little bit. Anyways.
Anyway.
I know you didn't mean to do that, but
well, again, don't worry. He still factors into there's an aftermath. There's a really good aftermath with him, Tiki. It's just anyway.
Okay, anyways.
So basically he lies to Iris about Mason and basically goes to the whole Brazil line. Like, oh yeah, he went to Brazil with a girl.
Mm-hmm.
He's covering, it's kind of covers with Iris, and then he's not happy about it, but he's on board. And basically they loop him into the other big news, that is Wells. Again, after describing the lightning, it sounds like, okay, this guy definitely knows he's used the Speed Force. Wells is Reverse Flash.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have the perfect ending that complements that, Tiki. The perfect ending. The only way this episode could end. The ending that cements that whole Trickster parable, where, again, if we've had literal tricksters that are kind of like in our face, and again, the trick of the episode that pays off at the very end here, the trick of like, okay, you thought the actual guy named Trickster was our whole tricksters of everything here, but no. The real trick is, it's the old adage of like, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing us that he didn't exist. that old thing. It's kind of like that with this, where it's like, hey, the greatest trick ever pulled is Reverse Flash convincing us he wasn't Harrison Wells.
Exactly.
Where the police arrive basically after the scene of the car accident to help out the passersby. Harrison Wells is seemingly injured. He's saved by the cops, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he says, "My name is Harrison Wells."
Yep.
Bam!
Good stuff.
That's where the episode ends. My God, wonderful.
All right, and folks, thank you so much for joining us. Dragon, any? I guess I'll kind of speak to my final thoughts first. And Dragon, thanks for kind of, I know I'm not, thanks for kind of leading us through, because I'm kind of a novice at this point. I kind of feel like I was a little behind on the conversation. But, overall, I mean, Dragon, you're absolutely right. We started talking about this episode. We wanted to talk about this episode for the Mark Hamill of it all. But really, there's just, there's so much about this episode that you really kind of have to appreciate on a rewatch. The context of the flashbacks, all the fatherly themes and everything like that. The layers of deception going on between both the Trickster and the Reverse Flash, how the Trickster and the Reverse Flash kind of complement each other. It's a very packed episode, and Mark Hamill he's having a ball. He's really hamming it up, and Tom Cavanaugh is both at his most menacing and his most heartwarming and heartbreaking. It's a hell of an episode, Dragon. It definitely is. And I'm glad that we finally got a chance to actually talk about it after the big disappointment last year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Again, folks, I'm going to echo some thoughts I said earlier. Very simply, again, it's still to this day, and probably will always be my favorite episode of The Flash. It simply has everything working for it. You got the '90s Flash tribute with Mark Hamill and John Wesley Shipp being reunited. We have What's so cool is we have a non-speedster villain who's compelling and fun when Mark Hamill's the Trickster, and while at the same time you have that, you also in the flashbacks we have the ultimate speedster villain. We're kind of complementing both sides of that coin. Again, you have like kind of the cheesy kind of like the fun like guys in costumes like kind of who have they're normal guys, normal guys with kind of a crazy gimmick. While at the same time, we have these really compelling sci-fi bad guys that kind of loop into time travel and speed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the fatherhood complexities. Again, there's always like Barry Allen does not have just the simple relationship with any of these father figures. There's always a complexity. There's always something that's going like he has a father who was accused of murder and is in prison. He's got a father who took him in, but he's the guy who put the other father away. We have the father who killed the mother. It's like there's no simple.
By three dads, but it's a twisted like revenge tale.
Yes, that's the perfect way of putting it. Yes, so again, I love the theme. I think the best thing that this episode has going for it is that theme of Tricksters with the Reverse Flash story as the undercurrent, which again is like the true kind of is a fantastic backbone. But even again, you just take it for the Mark Hamill on the surface, which is fantastic and very well performed. You can take it for the great substance you have. And again, this episode, I feel it's still. I think it still holds up on its own, even if you didn't see all the other episodes. I think it still has that power behind it. Don't get me wrong, knowing everything definitely helps kind of accentuate it. It fits. It's like the best. It's the flashiest, coolest puzzle piece in the season.
Uh-huh.
So again, I can't say enough nice things about this episode. We'll be here all day, and again, it's a very beloved and very welcome episode of the Flash, and definitely a standout of season 1 for my money.
And you know what I need, Dragon?
To feed the birds?
No. The birds are already fed. We don't want to get the birds fat. Dragon, I need my Barry Allen.